Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. And today we are doing Shattered Salvation, chapter 27. Sorry, 29. Ugh. Catherine Hurt. Whatever she'd done last night hadn't been a good idea. She reached over to ask Tom what it was they'd been up to, but her hand found nothing there, not even his side of the bed. The emptiness under her hand hit her heart like a dagger, and she sat up with a gasp. "Careful there, ma'am. You have a mild concussion." She barely heard the man as she tried to breathe through the tightness in her chest. She could feel her eyes getting wet and cursed herself. She was past crying over this. She was out for revenge now. Her breathing finally returned to her, and she took a deep breath. The man moved to touch her, but yeah, that's a lot of the returned. Breathing finally returned, and she took a breath. The man moved to touch her, but she batted his hand away. He was young, in a blood-red bodysuit under a pale green lab coat that matched the walls. The bed was utilitarian, and the screen on the wall gave readout of her condition. She was in a hospital. "How long?" "You need to lie back down, ma'am. It could be days before you're ready to leave." She shoved him away and threw her legs over the side of the bed. "How long have I been unconscious?" The man consulted his data pad. "You were brought in 12 hours ago." The string of curse she let out made the man stare. What had hit her? What did she remember? The fighting, overwhelming Tristan. There she'd gotten a call. Vernon telling her a group of mercs was heading her way. She'd been angry at the thought someone was going to try to poach Tristan from her. She'd taken Ermelyn and Curly and prepared to welcome them, trusting her people to subdue Tristan. Instead of them entering, there had been a canister, a flash of light, a deafening screech, a concussive blast. That hadn't knocked her out. It had almost blinded and deafened her, but she'd forced herself to stand. She'd made out gray armor. A man had pressed something against her chest. That was what had rendered her unconscious. "Ma'am, you hit your head pretty hard, not to mention all the bruises." "They're from the blast," she said offhandedly. She'd flown back, hit the ground hard. Gray armor, more than one cohesive unit. It couldn't be military. They unilaterally preferred black. So Vernon was right. Mercs. She didn't know any large group of mercs. "Did you give me heals? Did you give me any heals?" "Ma'am, heals are only kept will are only to keep someone in one piece long enough so they can reach a hospital. They aren't a replacement for proper care." "I'm going to take that as a no. Give me two. I have work to do." "Ma'am, kid, I don't have the time for this shit. I've already lost 12 hours, not to mention my man who died. I'm getting out of here. You want to be responsible for me collapsing once I'm out of this room? That's fine by me." She looked at the flimsy pale green gown she had on. "Oh, for fuck's sake, where's my armor?" She pulled it off. The man pointed at the closet. "Why are you still here? Get me those heels." It might have been her tone or the fact she was naked, but he rushed out of the room. Before the door closed, the man entered. She looked at him, the civilian attire, the body language, and growled, "I've got nothing to say." She got off the bed and held on to it as the nausea passed. "Miss Silt, you were found at the site of a battle with multiple casualties," the detective said. "I have questions." She tried to scream at him not to call her that, but her chest was too tight. She missed Tom so fucking much. She shouldn't have used that name, but she needed the authority it gave. Of course, the local law would want to talk to her. She faced the man and made her nudity obvious. He was thin, long, light brown hair falling behind him in a braid. His almost golden eyes didn't leave her face. Why couldn't the man here have been raised to be uncomfortable around naked women like back home? It was such a practical distraction. "Fine, ask." She headed for the closet with major step to keep the pounding in her head down. "What were you doing there?" "Hunting a criminal." "A Martinisiski, correct?" "Yes." She put a hand next to the door and caught her breath. "Maybe you should come back to bed, miss." "Fuck you." She cursed her lack of control. She didn't want to hear that name again. I'm sorry. I'm told I hit my head, which is why you should get back to into bed. I'm sure the doctors are going to want to examine you. Good for them. I don't have the time. Ask your questions because once I'm dressed, I'm leaving. The man sighed, but when he spoke, his tone was professional. It's my understanding Mr. Asinski is a blackmailer, yet you were at a drug lab. Care to explain why? She opened the door and smells of dust and soot wafted out. Really? This was a hospital and they didn't even have a cleaner in the closet? What about preventing infections and all that stuff? Miss, I heard you. She found the underlayer. My information said that's where he was headed. Maybe he had something on them and was going to force them to help him. And the silver hand? She almost said they just showed up, but cut herself. She wasn't local, so she wouldn't know who they were. She looked on she looked at the underlayer over. It was intact. Miss, I don't know who that is, she snapped. She put it on. They're a local cartel with planetary reach. What were they doing there? How should I know? What about the dead mercenaries? She paused and bile rose. How many? 7. The bastard had killed more than half the people she'd brought. How the fuck did one alien fight up almost a dozen trained mercs and however many of Flint's people had been there? Why were there mercenaries there? The detective asked, and edged to his voice. She used the act of dressing to calm herself. They were my backup. Against an extortionist? There was a clear disbelief in the tone. Yes, an extortionist. Anger was slipping through. She faced the detective, heading to a drug dealer with with I had no idea what kind of forces. Heading to a drug dealer with I had no idea what kind of forces. I don't know. It feels like there should be a comma here, but tell me again how many of them are dead? 7? You seem to be under the false impression that just because Asinski likes to sweet talk old ladies into giving them every credit they have, that he isn't willing to use whatever force has at his disposal to avoid capture. There's a reason they sent me to get him instead of telling you about it. I lost 7 of my highly trained people. How many officers would you have lost? None. We wouldn't have barged into an unknown situation. We have procedures for taking in criminals with superior forces. And while you're busy coordinating everything, and Asinski vanishes. You think I barged in because I don't know what I'm doing? Unlike you, I know exactly what I'm up against. Where is that kid with the heels? She put her pants on. The man tapped a finger against the edge of his datapad. All right. You don't know why the silver hand was there. I'm going to say it was bad timing on your part. The tone made it clear he didn't believe that, and leave it at that. Maybe you just happened to step into a takeover, or maybe Asinski pissed them off and they were after him too. That's more likely. It did sound more plausible than anything she could come up with currently. He has enough people to think he can get away with anything. So maybe you can tell me who the third party is. I don't know. She wished she did know who they were. That way she could go after them to make them pay for losing Tristan. Wait, was he dead? She almost asked if the body of a dead Samarian had been found. That would have blown her story out to vacuum, and she didn't have to. She knew the answer. No, Tristan wasn't dead. He'd escaped into confusion like he always did. Witnesses say they came in and left with someone. She spun and grabbed onto the wall to avoid falling. Who? Had they actually caught him? The detective consulted his data pad. I don't have that information. Either the witness didn't know, or that wasn't done. That wasn't done processing when I left the precinct. Then access your damn system and get me the info. I can't do that. We have strict no open connection rule. We have a strict no open connection rule here. You what? That's stupid. How do you get updated on what's happening when you're in the field? If it's vital, we have an unconnected comm. Someone will call me, I can call or I someone will call me, I can't call in. She just stared. Why would you do something that stupid? Do you know how many attacks your average law office gets in one day? With the size of the universe, can you count the number of criminals who want their data removed? No, you don't, because it happens so often no one bothers keeping track anymore. Well, we decided to do something about it. Since the system has been in place, there has been zero successful coercion against us. Isn't that a little extreme? The man shrugged. Maybe, but it worked. So who cares if it causes inconvenience? She sighed and grabbed her shirt. Oh, she cared. She shook it, and a cloud of soot flew at the detective. So, what I want is at your precinct? She put it on while the man coughed. Yes. She checked the closet. Of course her gun wasn't there. Another reason to go to the precinct. Then you're going to fly me there. Her head was clear by the time the hover landed. The heels she'd taken off the cart and her pilot's refusal to go in pursuit mode to get there faster had fixed her up. Where are my people? As per procedure, mercs operating without authorization are treated and incarcerated. I need them released. Miss, they are operating under my orders. I'm their authorization. Do you need me to read you the Jubilant Corporate Act? No, the man sighed. Any corporate agent has the authority to hire supplementary force to aid in their duties. Good. I'm glad to hear they still teach it at the academy. He glared at her. She didn't care. Make it happen. I can't. Only the captain can order a release without orders from the judicial system. She opened her mouth at the door and smiled at him. Then you go and tell him to make it happen. She stepped out and headed inside the precinct. When a young officer tried to keep her from entering the inner sanctum, she chewed him out so thoroughly he was a puddle of fear, and then she showed him her ID. No one got in her way after that. She looked the room over. 40 desks or so, most occupied by an officer or detective, busy filling whatever form they had to. One stopped what he was doing and looked as her gaze fell on him. Broad shoulders, short brown hair, and a cocky smile that made her hate him on sight. The fact that her mangled face didn't seem to bother him didn't help his case. She went to his desk. Hello there, pretty lady. What can I... Get me everything you have on the group of mercs that left the building where the attack took place. I'm told someone was carried off. I need to know who. He beamed. I'll be happy to do that, but I think you... She leaned and got in his face. No, you don't think. You do what I tell you. You probably think you're some impressive thing. You probably think all you have to do is wave it around and all women will fall on it for your pleasure, but let me tell you, you're nothing. You have nothing that's going to impress anyone, certainly not me. So pack it back in, keep your mouth shut, and do what you're told, because if you don't, I'm going to crush you. Miss Silt. The voice came from behind her and carried authority. She grabbed onto the edge of the desk, not to stagger forward as her chest tightened. She didn't close her eyes. She didn't allow herself to show any of the pain she felt. The man she ended up staring at slowly pushed himself away from her. She took her time straightening, let him think she was playing power game. When she turned, she could breathe enough to greet him. Captain Sonor. The man was another young one, slick and trying to look more impressive than he actually was. Even the suit was a statement, being almost corporate in its cut. But the details he got wrong made him come across as insignificant to her. Just because you're corporate doesn't give you the right to harass my officers. The procedures are clear. If you need something, you talk to me. She could do anything she damn well wanted. She wanted to tell him. But pissing off a leader never led to an easy solution. So she buried her anger and played the game this little wannabe corporate wanted. My apologies. I didn't see you, and you looked to be in charge in your absence. She smiled. It didn't mean she had to play nice. The man barely hid his snarl. Come to my office. She followed him, and once there, with the door closed, he rounded on her. What the fuck is this I hear about you blowing up a building? That wasn't me. Don't fucking play semantic with me. It was one of your mercs, so it was you. What are you even doing hiring those? I don't give a fuck about your authority. When you contacted me, you said you were after a blackmailer. One man. You never mentioned needing your own little army to do that. Do you have any idea how many dead we have? 86. That's how many people your little hunt killed. Since they were done playing the game, she got in his face. Let me remind you, Captain, that I don't have to tell you fuck all. Unlike the other one, the sight of her face disclosed made him lean back. I let you know I was here as a courtesy. I can show up, level the city, and so long as my boss don't complain about it, there's not one fucking thing you can do about it. So go sit your fucking ass down and get me the information I need. The man's face was red, and she knew someone would pay for his humiliation, but it wouldn't be her, and that was all she cared about. He sat at his desk. I want everything on the group who left the building. One of your officers told me they had someone with him. He kept glaring at her, but he typed. The wall behind him changed from boring gray to the scene of a street. A distortion was moving along it until it turned into an alley. That's all the recorders got, he growled. The information lab is working on the image, trying to get something out of it, but whatever it isn't color code related. It's something they're wearing, so they have no idea how to go about reconstructing the image. After the explosion, people didn't go near windows. After the explosion, people didn't go near window, but so far a handful of people have come forward to report that they were between 6 and 20 people leaving and that they were carrying people. People, as in more than one. Your officer said they left with one person. That's what the first witness said, but we've since gotten more witness reports. There was some sort of altercation just outside the building. Then they grabbed those people too. Any details? Only that one wasn't human. Not reacting took everything she had. It was impossible. There was no way someone else had beaten her to him. She worked too damn hard. She wasn't going to let someone else have the pleasure of making him pay. Where did they go? We tracked their movement to a cargo hover and that to the port. From there, they took a shuttle to a ship. Which one? No idea. Excuse me? You have a ship parked in orbit and you don't bother finding out who it is? The man rolled his eyes. They weren't anywhere near this planet. They were stationary around number 8. It's nothing but a hunk of rock. Nothing there for centuries. So what do I care who stops there to take in the view? Unlike you corporates, we have something called privacy here and we respect it. His smug expression made her want to rip his head off, but as satisfying as that would be, it would cause her nothing but trouble. If they ever found out she didn't have corporate backing, her hunt would become exponentially more difficult. She calmed herself. She'd find another way of finding the information she needed. My people, have they been released? They're being processed. Where are they? Still in their cell. She left the office, directing stairs as she walked through the room to the door marked detention. Open it, she told the woman sitting closest to it. She obeyed and Catherine had to go through the scanner, then another set of door, this one reinforced, before she entered a hall with small rooms on each side. They were old style, having bars instead of force field. Only the last one had the glow over it. Curious, she headed there, nodding to the people as she passed their cells and letting them know they were going to be released. I wouldn't get close to that one, the officer said. That alien's crazy. Sent 7 of ours to the hospital. She rounded on him. And what did you do to cause him to do that? Hey! He backed up, hands raised. We didn't do anything. We had to bring him in, but he didn't want to come. Kept holding on to that other one. No, she whispered as she got cold. Where had Hermelin been? She'd lost track of him after the flashbang. She hurried to the cell, and while what she saw wasn't what she expected, it didn't make her feel any better. Armelin was seated on the floor, holding Geron's body, what was left of it. Half the bony plates on his chest and arm had been ripped off. An arm was missing, and his head was twisted around. She dropped to her knees. I am so sorry, she whispered. Armelin looked up, misery and rage mixed in those odd eyes of his. I didn't know it would happen. I should have known. I should have told Geron to be careful. He pulled the Frenian body against him. I'm so sorry I let this happen. But I'll avenge you, I promise. He looked back up and Catherine shuddered at the pain in Armelin's face. Where is he? I don't know, but I'll find him, I promise. The Porphyrian nodded. He's mine, Catherine. I'm sorry for the suffering he caused you, but if you get in my way, if you try to keep me from killing that Somalian, I won't. I just want him to suffer and to die. If you're the one doing it, that's fine. Oh, he will suffer. Amlin lost whatever humanity he usually had. Tristan is going to wish he'd been killed that first time someone tried it, because the universe knows I will make him feel every pain imaginable. And this concludes chapter 29 of Shattered Salvation. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the story as well as the other books in the series, they are all available on the major e-retailers. If you want to support me, that's on my Patreon, where you can get access to basically everything I've written. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. The links are in the notes. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.